Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report, reporting live here at the Jazz Gallery here in New York City. Tonight, pianist Gerald Clayton is playing selections off his brand new CD, Bond, the Paris Sessions. And what's very interesting about this CD is, one, it's further expanding and showcasing his great piano skills, as well as, two, going back to those great trio ensembles that we used to hear during the 50s and 60s, like Bill Evans and Oscar Peterson. Sessions. This is your second release, and this is a little different from your debut album.
It is. We recorded it in Paris at a lovely studio called Studio des Moudons. I fell in love with the piano there, and just kind of remembered it, and I said, let me try to record my next record there, and it all worked out. So that was kind of a new environment for us to record in. And yeah, I think it just sort of documents the next level of communication between the trio.
Visually, what kind of compositions did you have in store? Because it's like your first album was kind of like an introduction to the world of your piano skills as well as just your talent.
I mean, it's just really a continuation of what we've been doing, you know, just trying to tighten our bond musically and off the bandstand. So I got new tunes that, you know, I'll just kind of bring some stuff into Joe and Justin, and immediately they'll kind of give me their ideas, and it sort of takes shape on its own. And then after we, you know, sort of commit to a certain way of doing it, the next day we say, okay, let's throw that out and try to find some new methods of communication over it, and thus the music develops.
Now, the compositions are a mix of your fresh originals as well as a couple standards.
Indeed. We play If I Were a Bell, All the Things You Are, and Nobody Else But Me. So it's a nice mixture in there. I think, you know, I grew up listening to standards and this music, so it just feels natural for me to include that into a project, because it's part of, I think, what makes me who I am. It's the music I love.
of out the gate come out of the trio, and I understand now that you are like tonight. You're going to see a whole nother side of you musically. You've expanded tonight somewhat. What's it like playing with the trio, and is this really going back to the real crux of the original trio settings of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s?
I think there's certainly a relation. It's what we're doing today in music is an extension of all the music that we grew up listening to from various genres, but definitely the jazz tradition. And the first music that I fell in love with was piano trios. So I think it's a really nice way to kind of strip it down and just get to the basics, the core, the rhythm section. Really exposes the bass and the drums and the piano in a nice way, and it allows us to just interact at our most vulnerable. But like you said, I got a different group here with vibraphone and tenor saxophone, and that keeps me excited too, just getting to feed off of all the musicians on the scene.
You come from a very extensive jazz background. Your father is a dynamic composer and bassist, and your uncle is a dynamic saxophonist. You were a bit early in the bug, weren't you?
I guess so. Yeah, I really feel very blessed and fortunate to have grown up in that kind of environment, where I got to see sort of the lifestyle behind the music and all the love behind the music at a young age. I always say I remember seeing these sound checks and these rehearsals as a little kid, and just seeing these grown men get together and tell jokes and give each other hugs, and there was just a lot of love in the room, and everybody was coming together for the love of the music. So I think that stuck with me at a young age.
You started off playing classical. You were classically trained. What was it like converting as a child from classically being trained to segueing into jazz music?
For me, it was pretty easy just because I'd always been listening to jazz music. I loved playing classical music, and I still love listening to classical music, and hopefully I'll find some time in the future to kind of dive back into that a little bit more seriously. But as I get older, I think the lines are getting more and more blurred between the genres, and there's really not that much of a distinction between the two. It's all expression and sound. So I'm just trying to focus on that.
So you pretty much had influences from the classical vein as well as jazz. Who were some of your influences?
I mean, I used to love playing Beethoven. I love listening to Ravel and Stravinsky. I mean, it's a whole other world, and I like to dive into it. But I don't claim to know that much about it. So please hit me to more, But yeah, I love classical music. Yeah.
Who were some of your influences on the piano and jazz?
My first love was definitely Oscar Peterson. That was sort of where I started, and Monty Alexander and Benny Green, sort of pianists who carry that sort of that spirit and that sound. And then as I got older, I got hip to cats like Herbie Hancock and Chick Corea and really all the greats. Now I'm just blown away by the stuff that Gonzalo Rubalcaba's putting on the table, and the list really goes on and on.
26 years old, and you're part of this next legacy of jazz musicians. I mean, you're coming in a tradition of pianists like yourself, Eldar, and Hiromi. And what is it that you're seeing now your generation is bringing to the table of jazz?
I think it's an exciting time to be a jazz musician because there's sort of all the rules have been thrown out. It feels like there's a blank canvas for everybody to just choose whatever they want to paint on it. You know, we're growing up in an iPod generation now where we have entire record collections in the palm of our hands, and I think that kind of affects the way that people put together their music and sort of put together all their influences. And at the same time, there is still a community spirit in the jazz scene. You know, there's always jam sessions to go to, and New York is still the same New York it's been. But I think in general, I would say that the musicians of today are trying to keep more of an open mind. Not to say that musicians before were closed-minded, but there were, I think, more clear trends in the jazz scene. And now it just seems like there's a whole plethora of different styles and approaches.